Daniel Carter's morning began like any other ordinary day. He woke up late, made a bowl of cereal, and sat on the couch scrolling through his phone. Outside his apartment window, the world looked completely normal. Cars moving, people walking their dogs, the distant sound of traffic humming through the city. Then every screen in the world suddenly froze. Daniel's television flickered. His phone vibrated violently in his hand. Even the digital clock on the wall flashed before going dark. A red alert message appeared. Global emergency broadcast, Daniel frowned. Probably another weather warning, he muttered. But the message that followed made his spoon slip from his hand and clatter onto the floor. All male humans have disappeared. One male survivor remains. Daniel stared at the screen. Then he laughed nervously. Okay, very funny. He assumed it was a strange viral stunt or some hacked broadcast. But the news channels that appeared seconds later didn't look like a joke. Reporters looked pale and shaken. Airports were shutting down. Governments were holding emergency meetings. Hospitals were confirming something impossible. Men everywhere had vanished. Fathers, brothers, sons, husbands. Every single one. Except one. Daniel slowly reached for his phone again, his heart beginning to beat faster. Then his phone rang. The number displayed was unknown. He hesitated before answering. Hello? A serious female voice spoke calmly. Is this Daniel Carter? Yes. There was a brief pause. Mr. Carter, please remain where you are. A government transport team is on its way to your location. Daniel sat up straight. Why? The voice answered without hesitation, because you are the only man left on Earth. The call ended. Daniel sat frozen. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he whispered to himself, That's impossible. But deep down, a growing fear told him it wasn't. 3 hours later, helicopters thundered above his apartment building. Military vehicles filled the street. Women in tactical gear rushed inside, while confused neighbors watched from their windows. Daniel opened his door slowly as a tall officer stepped forward. Daniel Carter? Yes. She studied his face carefully, almost like she was confirming a rare discovery. Then she spoke into a radio. We've located him. Within minutes, Daniel was escorted into a helicopter and flown to a high-security research facility. The ride felt unreal. As the helicopter rose into the sky, Daniel looked down at the city. The streets looked strangely different. Everywhere he looked, he only saw women. The facility was surrounded by armed guards and security fences. Inside, dozens of scientists waited behind a glass wall. Daniel sat in a chair while they watched him carefully. Finally, a middle-aged scientist stepped forward. Daniel, I know this must feel overwhelming. That's putting it lightly, he replied. She nodded sympathetically. The entire world population has changed overnight. There are now approximately 4 billion women on Earth. She paused. And one man. Daniel rubbed his temples. So you're telling me every other guy is Justin? Yes. Like they vanished? Yes. Daniel exhaled slowly. Wow. Another scientist stepped forward with a tablet. Daniel, humanity now faces a serious problem. He looked up. Let me guess. She nodded. The survival of our species. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Right? No pressure. The scientist took a breath. In order to maintain population growth and genetic diversity, we estimate that you would need to father roughly 3 million children over time. Daniel blinked. 3 million? Yes. Children? Yes. He stared at the room full of scientists. Then he burst out laughing. When no one else laughed, he stopped. Oh, you're serious. The news spread across the world within hours. Daniel Carter instantly became the most important human being in history. World leaders held emergency conferences, scientists rushed to study the mysterious event, and millions of women began applying to something the media soon called the Future Project. Applications came from every country: doctors, engineers, farmers, artists, athletes, teachers. Women volunteered not just for themselves, but for the survival of humanity. Daniel watched the news in disbelief from the secure facility. I can't believe this, he said. A scientist beside him smiled gently. You didn't ask for this responsibility. Yeah, but somehow I got it anyway. Outside the facility, crowds gathered. Some women held hopeful signs. Others simply wanted to see the man who now carried the future of humanity. Daniel shook his head. My life used to be so simple. 2 months later, the world built a special place for the future. A massive island facility in the middle of the ocean. It had research labs, hospitals, homes, schools, and security from dozens of nations. Daniel arrived by helicopter. As he stepped onto the landing pad, he saw hundreds of women waiting nearby. The first group selected from millions of volunteers. Some smiled nervously, some waved, some looked curious. Daniel leaned toward the scientist walking beside him. "I think my brain just stopped working," she laughed. "You'll adjust." "I seriously doubt that." The early days were awkward for everyone. The women came from every corner of the world, different languages, different cultures, different personalities, but they all understood the same strange truth. Daniel was the only man alive. At dinner one evening, a woman named Sophia sat beside him. "You look like you're still trying to wake up from a dream," she said. Daniel sighed. "Honestly, I still think this might be one." She smiled. "Well, if it is, it's a pretty strange dream." Daniel laughed. That was the first moment he had laughed in weeks. Over time, something unexpected happened. The pressure slowly turned into something else. Community. Friendship. The women weren't just part of a program. They were people with stories. Maria painted beautiful landscapes. Hannah loved solving impossible math puzzles. Amara trained every morning like a professional athlete. Lena could make an entire room laugh with her jokes. Daniel began to realize something important. Humanity's future didn't depend on him alone. It depended on everyone working together.